I'm doing a little kind of a summary of kind of furthering my four-step process on reincarnation. Now, I did this long ago, but then I kind of got a little derailed with somebody else's beliefs that took me in a different direction, and today I was going over some of my weaker links and just sort of bringing them more to awareness so that I can be also aware of my real being in context with the external stories and beliefs. So I was looking at step one, which is just be with whatever is coming up that I might see as something I need to be aware of that might prevent me or hinder me from knowing the truth, the pure truth. Okay, that's about as simple as I can get it, but it's a tough one to find words for. And strangely enough, what came up were two things. One was reincarnation, which, like I said, I've gone over that a long time ago, and my attachment toward my partner. And that was one of the reasons when I died, my body dropped in 2020, and I ended up coming back to a stiff, cold body. Rigor mortis had clearly set in already. And it was because my partner wanted me to come back. So I looked at those two things because the one is a compliance toward a male figure. And I've looked at that in my life lots because I was raised, as a girl, and as I got older as a female lady who should always comply to the men. That was the Eastern European culture that I grew up with, and whoa, it was strong. The women would go. If the women were talking in the living room and the men came in, the women would get up, go to the kitchen, and talk. They were not permitted to talk man talk in the living room, and so only if the men brought them over could they come in. Otherwise, no, they could not. And but you see, I was born during the 60s, so all of that was happening, and that was creating a great shift with my cultural family dynamic. Anyhow, I decided to put reincarnation on my step one, which is just to sit and look and observe whatever comes up, whatever arises around reincarnation. Could be beliefs, could be any kind of ideas, feelings, could be just anything or nothing. Maybe nothing comes up, and that's okay too. I'll let nothing come up, and then I'll carry on with step two, and then I'll come back and do it again because obviously something wants to come up. I take that as my cue that something is pretty big. And bear in mind, I know these are stories. As I've mentioned before, they're stories, they're beliefs. And however, as long as I constantly put my focus into it, it sort of solidifies it. And it's like a hypnosis, and long ago, so I don't know, I'm gonna say maybe 20 years ago now, 20 years ago, I really got into studying hypnosis and how that works. And what I see here is like a mass hypnosis of beliefs en masse, or en masse, or however you pronounce that. And so this is kind of what I'm looking at in terms of reincarnation. And because if nothing comes up in step one, I'm thinking it's pretty heavy. I'll just give myself lots of patience and lots of time. I can go over this many times. Something's getting in the way here. And eventually it comes up. But so there, after all the time I've gone over reincarnation, there was something more that was wanting to come up. So I sat with it. Now, different things that came up, I wrote them down. It was about, so step one, just things are coming up. And it was kind of about identifying the lies versus the truth of reincarnation, and which has long been a challenge in the East and the West. So the most common reason Christians claim that reincarnation isn't true is that it contradicts the pardon me, I have a frog in my throat. It contradicts the biblical teaching of a single earthly life followed by a final judgment and an eternal destiny. So that came from Hebrews 9:27, and it teaches a linear view of life and judgment and resurrection, not transmigration, which is reincarnation. And also, it's not explicitly taught in the Bible. It's a one and done deal. You know, Christianity is a one and done deal. Making the choices in your life a dominant belief. And we're back to choices again. So in step one, like I kind of took all of these religious Christian and Eastern beliefs that showed up, and then I put that through the 4-step method. So I set my timer, and when it went off, I moved on to step 2. And then even more beliefs that are passed off as knowings or as truths arose. And I'm not taking them as true. I'm just taking them as beliefs, and people say they're knowings, and that they're true. And they live their whole life believing it and going to religions or atheist groups or having apathy or trying to find different coping skills to deal with all that. So I'm basically kind of using this as my coping skill, this 4-step method, because why not? I'm going to be using something probably, some belief. So I might as well use this because this slices through the stories a little easier. So later on, I might go over on how all of that showed up a little more. But for right now, I will describe a little bit about the reincarnation belief that I went through in this method. Since, many people in the West are being taught to hold on to the reincarnation belief as true and valid. A lot of people are really revisiting that belief and saying it's true, it's a right belief, it's correct, believe it, believe it, believe it. So step 1, there I was sitting down and I was writing it out with paper and pen. Sometimes that helps me get things just moving. Otherwise, my mind might freeze, my body might freeze up, my emotions might freeze up. And it freezes because it's run the show. It's run the show for so long. And it doesn't really matter, I guess, that it's run the show until it starts to matter. And then you notice, Jesus, that matters. So, I set my timer for 5 minutes and then I reset it again because a lot of things came up. Things like how important the belief and teaching is for some reason. And that's what I'm going to go into, that reason. And notice 2 words here, teachings and beliefs. So during step 1, people, books, cultures came to my attention that support reincarnation as a belief. And the reason came forward. In step 1, I didn't judge it in step 1. I'll wait for step 3 to do that. Oh, and yeah, I do some judging. I judge all over that. Anyway, but I'm judging it from a different space. Not so much from my sass, because I do get sassy. Not so much from my sassy space. I judge it more from a different space. Well, sure, yeah, I can be sassy too. But anyway, so I sat with it, I watched it unfold, and I felt it unfold as different ideas came forward. So the extremes between people who believe it and those who don't, and those who don't care, it all came forward. The alarm went off, and then I went on to step 2. Step 2 is I let my true being, whatever that is, be present. So I was sitting down for this and closing my eyes a lot of the time. Part of me wanted to run, and I just sat. I sat still. My thoughts and emotions and body and observational point called forward my pure essence. So that's what I kind of call my real being. And I'm getting more familiar with my real being. It has taken me a very long time because external distractions and beliefs will come in and say, oh, go for a hike, go talk to the trees, go something externally, or drama can show up. Now, oh my gosh, I'm going to just derail here for a second, because male drama and female drama, they're two different animals. And I'm very well familiar with both, having grown up with men, like I said, who dominated in a certain way. And, I have my mother, female, obviously, and she went at drama very stoically, very calmly. Now, the 3 males in my family, my dad, my 2 brothers, oh my God, drama queens, drama kings. And they went at it in a certain specific way. And because I was raised with, women must be quiet, and you kind of like speak when you're spoken to, and all of that. Women, everything went wrong when women got the vote. Literally, I was told that. And so I was raised, as a lot of women are, to be quiet. But if you have something to say, you kind of say it secretly, which is now, is interpreted as gossip or talking behind people's back. Because, in the UK, there are examples of this. Now, I know I'm going off on a tangent, but I'll come around because there's kind of a reason, I guess, why I am. So in the UK, there are museums with actual mouthpieces that they put on women to attach to their tongues so they wouldn't speak. And if they said the wrong thing to their husband or looked at a man the wrong way, that male, or even women, could snitch on them and go to the authorities and say she needs to be put up for inquiry, and she may or may not have to wear one of these mouthpieces. I don't think men had to wear them. If so, it was very, very uncommon. That is not how it was dealt with men. So I know how women do drama based on a lot of ancient stuff, where you cover your face and you are not allowed, or you might have battery acid put on you. Now, men would have repercussions too, but it was different. Like I'm saying, it's different, and therefore men handle drama. They do it a different way, and I know the drama. Men are drama freaks, and so are women. It's just we do it differently. So anyway, this all has kind of got in the way, because drama would come up and get in the way of me just being there as my real self. And then I'd run to nature, which, wasn't that bad of an option, except that it's still, I'm running away externally into something that is the matrix system, and it's programmed similarly. And then I saw the patterns and everything, so I kind of stepped back, but still, I still find that a better option than walking in the city streets, for example. But anyway, now getting on, as that was a bit of an aside, but getting back to my step 1 here, is that I am getting more familiar with my real being, and it has taken a lot. So I'm just letting this present me, as my presence, be what it is. and being aware and identifying when the mind and the emotions and the body come in play, and what that difference is. So, not to be confused with the scam spirit or a Holy Spirit or a fake higher self or any other belief that kind of maybe arises that wants to pretend, like your body that wants to pretend it's the real you, or your mind, or your emotions, all of that. But I'm talking about my real essence being, as much as I can right now, like however much that is, to be with that aspect of you. Don't question in step 1, just observe. And when the alarm goes off, I went to step 3. So now remember, this is step 1. I was putting on step 1, reincarnation topic. So now step 3, I'm going to inquire. And what inquiry is going to cut through this? That's what I ask. I ask myself, what kind of inquiry? What do I need to know? What do I need to do or not do? What do I need to unknow? What do I need to relearn? What do I need to unlearn? In this mixing pot and expose levels of lies that are mixed with layers of truth, to see and know whatever comes up in step 1 of the topic of reincarnation. Based on step 2, I'm as much of my pure being as I can. In step 3, I'm inquiring as to this reincarnation beliefs a little deeper. So, what I discover through doing this, the long period of time that I've been doing this, and I've been kind of perfecting it a little more and tweaking it a little more to what I have today, is, to see whatever comes up in pure truth. And it separates like dross from gold. That's what happens in my own experiences. So questions regarding step 1 and 2 came up. And they arise as ideas that during step 3, inquiring, I inquire about, or I inquire over. I'm not bypassing step 2, which is during this issue, I'm calling forward my pure being in context with my mind, my body, my emotions, and all of the whole stories that have come up. And I'm ready to be aware of that part of me, that aspect of me, that who I am relative to all this other stuff that's going on. And then, so step 3, I'm inquiring from a religious teaching or an idea other than what my true being is saying. I'm inquiring about these teachings, and then I'm inquiring about what my true being is wanting to put forward. So I'm kind of doing both. I'm calling up the lies about what the teachings want me to believe, and then I'm calling up my true being truth, absolute truth. Can I know it? If not, why not? And if not, put that on step 1 in another procedure. So, because inquiry might come up not as your true being, it might come up as a lie. These beliefs are so long embedded in our DNA and our culture, and in our programming and in the code. Like I said, as nature is all of nature, and our belief in nature is embedded in the code of this system. So I will further inquire and go, what do I need to ask to get to the pure truth? What do I need to what do I need to inquire over? What do I need to know? How does that accompany from pure being? How can pure being let me know this? put this through to me. Make me aware of this. Otherwise, the teachings and beliefs come up and try to make me believe that it's true, just like everything else. And it'll try to hide the lies. And that's what we see in all these beliefs anyways. Or the mind's analysis or the heart's emotions. It'll try to hide all that and spin a new belief. So more ideas arose in step 3 when about reincarnation. For example, the only real thing about reincarnation is that it's a program that really keeps you energized into coming back, or it's counter of not coming back. So it spins the person between the two extremes and variations of those extremes. And you see, long ago when I did this process over reincarnation, then I got spun into somewhere in between these two extremes. And I knew reincarnation was BS on a way wider scale, but I got spun back. And it happened via identifying a past and strengthening that identification to that story or to that belief as real. So then reincarnation becomes real, really real. It goes hand in hand with a dependence on linear belief. And both counterparts use this, but so I put on step 1, the reincarnation beliefs, what came up, and all of that stuff, all of those variations came up, the counterparts. And so then I began, identifying and inquiring the lies versus the truth of reincarnation. So, anyway, where did I go from there? Well, I was looking at identifying this and giving over the body, mind, and emotions over to the true essence being, inquiring when a lot of beliefs arise in the form of preaching, and the things that came up was that reincarnation is no different than any one of these beliefs. It gets you to believe and preach that those stories are real while not identifying with your real essence. And the same happens with Christianity, same happens with atheism, with apathy, with anything regarding all that is entangled with that story or that belief. And so reincarnation was no different. It was coming up in the same way. And it was a pattern. I saw it as a pattern used in all beliefs that people call knowing or truth. The result is the same. It keeps feeding your mind, your emotions, that it's real, while simultaneously seeking liberation from it, even if through apathy or if through merging with AI downloads. It's all the same. And then my alarm went off a few times and I kept resetting it to do step 3 over and over again. And then I would sit still and let my pure being arise more, as much as could be, as much as my mind and my emotions and my body could identify this pure being. And then my pure being just became stronger, has kind of become a little stronger, so that I know me, my being, my essence. So then I went to step 4, which is, how do I proceed from here? Proceed as the awareness of step 2, my pure being, my real being, my essence. And step 3, calling up pure truth, or what came up with regard to the reincarnation issue. And what came up is that the way to break free from the reincarnation loop, and I'm talking about me here, not you necessarily, I'm talking about the way for me, is to identify this and give body, mind, and emotions over to true being essence as much as I can. Using this process, I put whatever is stopping me on step 1, and in step 2, I invite, I have, every part of me is asking my pure being to show up, and how does it show up? In some small way or big way. And then I identify it from the lies in step 3. And if a lie comes up and says, oh, you're part of source and all of that, then I put that on step 1. So, because that is when a lot of beliefs will arise in the form of preaching that says this place isn't meant for that. And, there is truth to that. This whole system, the way it's set up, isn't meant for that. But, and this is a big old but, when I take this issue and belief and story back onto step 1 and go over it again, in step 3 inquiry, I ask, why is true essence believing in these beliefs? All kinds of beliefs come up to counter this. And I continue to inquire over the truth, to expose the lies. Because, these beliefs and stories that come up that say, oh, well, you chose. Well, what is the point that I chose? Where was it? And then I do the process on that again. Or it doesn't matter. Or, whatever. It could say it doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. Well, then why is my essence in this? Why is my essence observing and viewing into this? Where is a different option? How can I get that different option? How can I drop the false and be more present in the option? And a belief will come up and go, oh, no, this experience is what you want. And then I'll go through all these steps again and inquire again to get to the pure truth, because the lies end up exposing themselves as the pure truth has more power, gets more ability and more strength, pure truth gets more strength. It is strong. It's just this place is one heck of a hypnotic place, and I call it a trance, and then we acquiesce. We go, oh, okay, it's only for a minute. Oh, okay, I believe your stories and your beliefs, and I'll buy into this one or that one, or like I did on reincarnation. I got caught up on a variation, and it just sort of spun me around for a while. Actually, longer than I'd want to admit. 4 years. Anyway. Because when I step into step 4, my alarm goes off and I go into step 4, which is, how do I proceed? How do I proceed now? The answer came up for me in the old song by the band The Clash. Should I stay or should I go now? That came up, and that came up years and years ago, and that's where I got spun around for a variation of beliefs in reincarnation and why you should stay and what should happen around that. And so a lot of fear beliefs come up. As I took them back to step 1 through 4, once again, the main pattern shows up that doesn't want me to pull out of the system and its multi-level and layered beliefs and stories. More stories are set up to say you can't leave, or you can only leave through accepting the way the stories and beliefs tells you is the only way to do that. So there again, I'm giving myself over, and I am not operating, acting as my pure being, as my pure essence. I'm giving myself over to somebody else's belief. They're very strong, especially when you get bombarded by drama, like I mentioned, hitting you 5 ways. Although, even though the drama is there's still stories, and you know it can impact the body and the mind and the emotions, especially when people, and well-meaning people, say, go to your gut and your heart and your emotions, and then boom, you can get lost for decades in that variation of a belief in a story. Um, so what happened is I got that you can't leave. You can only leave through accepting the way this system tells you is the only way to do it. It's not my essence way. Because once again, the pattern is to keep me playing the beliefs and the programs of this system and keep me away from knowing me as my true essence. My true essence proceedings, creation, and choice. And that's why this legal system and the many multi-layered hierarchical systems beyond this system always they'll always tell you, you chose, you signed that paper. Well, you didn't have to sign that paper, but you did, therefore you chose. No, you chose, so now we're carrying on. That's all behind us. No, we're done with that. We're done with that. We can't go back and redo it. Why can't we go back and redo it? Well, that's the little law they made up. And they will keep making things up till something sticks with you. And this is what I see the pattern is there. It's trying to keep me from my true essence proceedings and creation and choices by believing I chose something different. And then when I say, oh, well, no, I didn't choose that, I'm still not aware of what my true teachings are. Not teaching, but choices are. Because I'm just giving over to a whole variation of another story. That's how multi-layered this thing is. And it can be challenging to step back when we're so heavily bombarded. And it can be with all kinds of beliefs and stories that are distracting. And we see some truth in some of them. Or the beliefs in their preachers will say to give that, and by that, what I mean by that, I mean you and your choice, over to a God or another savior or a source, or to immerse it in a deeper AI for a multitude of reasons that they say is okay. They may say, because look you haven't done anything with it so far over all these millennia. But that AI download, it is a Terence McKenna taught program. And as long as I'm distracted from knowing me as my real essence and the truth about the external, and am a little more able to strengthen these weak links, which are our beliefs and engagement in beliefs, then instead of me as real essence, I get a myriad of beliefs that I'm taught and that I'll take on, even maybe while disagreeing with them. That is a whole different level. And that's what everybody's doing, variations of that. And that's what keeps this belief and this program in play, that you chose this, or the counterpart of you can't choose it. That's for God to choose. Or maybe you won't use God, that's for fate, or whatever, fill in the blank. There's tons of options there. And it is all to weaken me, weaken my knowing of the absolute truth, to get me to identify as the story beliefs, the programs, and and more identifying as that, and not as knowing my real essence, identifying as the external instead of the truth about that. And like I said, my last little thing here is that I do go for walks out Sometimes I just think I might as well walk in the city. Really, it doesn't really matter. But then, I can get bombarded by the electrical wiring that can really hit me. There is noise in that. And yeah, so that's the story. A lot more came up for me, but I'll leave it at that. And it is a place to start, to identify your weak links and what you're believing and the truth behind it, and to know yourself, to know your real being, and then to make choices. And step number 4, how do I proceed from here? And then again, like I said, other beliefs might come up, or the same one might come up with slightly different perspective, because as I said before, turns out I was listening to other people's beliefs, and they stuck me I got swirling around in a strange variation of, I didn't believe in reincarnation, and yet I was, because reincarnation is another story. It's a story to get me to believe on a linear, but it's not real. It's not true. It is a belief to get me sucked in to solidifying more of this, and to go, oh, well, it must be true because look at this data all proves it. This data all proves it's a story to get you out of who you really are. Because then when I'm guaranteeing you're going to have a belief that says you can't know the truth. I would bet my house right now on that. You will have a belief that says you can't know the truth, and they go hand in hand because it's all enmeshed and entangled, so you don't know your true being. And then it gets caught up until I don't know, your true being before you know it is like mush. Sadly, here we are. Like, what? Hello, where am I? It's a very, very odd place, this world system, this matrix system is. I'm going to call it a world because that's what people call it. It's just the label people have called it. And I will leave it at that. And with this, I welcome anybody to inquire and ask further questions on this, either in your own personal time, in your own personal space, using these 4 steps, or whatever way you can use them. I just offer my 4 steps. And later on, I'm going to do an audio as to why I've decided to offer my 4 steps now. Because fear, fear is quite the program, isn't it? And then the desire not to have fear. So I'm not going to let that fear create my expectancies and drain me, or any of that, or cause me to redo what my choice should be, or make me second guess what I should be doing right now, which is to be sharing my 4-step method in relation to different things that come up, like I did it with the Sasquatches, and different variations of that belief and of that experience. And you can do it with anything, or you can definitely ask me questions that you might be inquiring about. I welcome that too. I welcome sass. I have no problem with sass, and but again, not assholes. Like but sometimes sass, people interpret that as you're being rude or ignorant. And really, sometimes sassy people they're just kind of like blunt, and they're not really being rude assholes. They're just being sassholes. So I don't mind sass, but I will be able to tell when somebody's just coming at me with a program. And I will take that into my 4-step method if I need to find out how to proceed which is step 4, how to proceed, because my go-to is to proceed from sass. I do tend to, and people don't like it. I know that. I know I'm not everybody's cup of tea. Whatever. I'm trying to tone down the sass. I truly am. I mean well, and I'm sharing this because if somebody might get something from it or not. It might be something that someone can use at some time to identify a lie, to parse out something, something that is a weak link and that is keeping them, a belief that is keeping them out of their pure being, more of their pure being, and then producing more beliefs and more stories to keep you away from that. And there's lots of them. I've heard, I don't know, I think I've heard them all. Maybe not. Maybe give me one I haven't heard. And we'll take that on step 1. And we'll hold that. Hold the feet to the fire of truth. Pure truth, absolute truth, as pure essence. And that fire will melt through the dross. And it just does. Until another little something might want to creep up to fill in that pothole on the road. But that's why I'm kind of always a little vigilant. And I don't say, I'm just going to let go with the flow and let whatever happen. Well, sometimes I do say, let whatever happens, happens. And then I catch myself because, one Neo-Advaita lady said, well, there's nothing to choice. Nothing to choice. You just, like, I'm at a street corner. I go left or I go right. And I'm thinking, oh my good gosh, your life has been from a fairly minted silver spoon, hasn't it? Because there's a whole different level. That would be the body and the mind talking, saying, my mind and my body, well, my body just goes there. My mind just says, yeah, we're going there. And then the AI source and all that calls itself God, either it's Christianity or AI or it's Eastern, whatever they might call that. There's tons of names for that. And it'll come in, and like I say again, or it could be hallucinogenics. That will do that as well. And then before you know it, years or months might go by and you're in a variation of another belief, but it's taking one away. It's taking me away from my real being. And step 4, which is, how do I proceed? See, this system and all its beliefs does not want you in step 1. Well, it doesn't mind. Actually, you can talk about it all you want. Step 1 is fine. Step 2, it doesn't want you in step 2. It really doesn't want you in step 3. Now, inquiry is ancient, and the East has used it, but they have not used it like this, because if you just inquire on your own, you can easily get led back by another belief, which could be the synchronicity and magic of the thing is called Source or Savior or Jesus or God or Shiva or Vishnu or whatever or a singularity. As Ray Kurzweil was talking decades ago about singularity, and atheists were eating that up. I will tell you that. I know. Because when did that book come out? Early 2000 and, I don't know, I'm going to guess 2003, 2004, something like that. Ray Kurzweil was coming out with the singularity. I'm going to be wrong on that year because my year details aren't good, but I was on an atheist agnostic group in relation to, well, it really wasn't. It was an ex-Mormon recovery forum, but there was tons of atheists and agnostics on there. And they were eating up Ray Kurzweil's singularity, eating it up, gobbling it up, and didn't even realize that it was the same pattern used for them. They were arguing against God, Christianity, but they were taking on the same pattern of beliefs for the same reason, which is to get us from step 4. Know your true being, because those beliefs will all tell you that's wrong to do that. You can't do that. For various reasons. They'll all have their different reasons why you can't go into step 4 and how do I proceed as my real being. So then, if we believe what those preachers are teaching, then we can get caught up in various variations of a different gray belief that, well, like I kind of know who I am, but not really. Yeah, so I'll leave it at that.